ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. Welcome to the Roundtable, everybody. My name is Robert Bannon. You're listening to us on Broadway World over here on the Broadway Podcast Network, iHeart, and Spotify. And you know, one of my favorite places in the entire world is seeing shows in New York City, and particularly new shows, brand new shows at the Vineyard. I love seeing shows at the Vineyard. There's not a bad seat in the house, and they do some of the most iconic shows that you can ever imagine. The Burning Cauldron of Fiery Fire began previews on the 23rd. Opening night is November 9th, and tickets are now available. It's an incredible cast written by an incredible writer. Anne Washburn is here. We are so excited to hear about the show. Welcome and congratulations to you.
Thank you. What a fantastic intro. Thank you.
I'm so appreciative of you I love the Vineyard because I love what it stands for, the work that they do. Some of the most original and inventive works have been there. For you, what was the relationship like with you to get this show there?
I mean, the Vineyard, I love the Vineyard also. I've had such a great time there. They did my first professional production in New York in 2006, 2008, a play called The Internationalist. So my relationship with them started then. Was working with Doug Abel, but also with Sarah Stern, who's now the artistic director. And so it seemed like a really logical place to bring the play to.
It's one of the greatest places to go see a show for you. You have been writing, and your shows. A little bit about you. I know that you went to NYU and went to Reed College, and your shows have been in all sorts of theaters, including Vineyard, Soho Rep, and Cherry Lane, and all these theaters around the world. I mean, your shows have been in Europe and everywhere. Where do you find inspiration usually for your writing? Where'd you find inspiration for this show?
Oh, I mean, it's all over the map, right? For each show, each play, I feel it's some different thing. Like in one play, it might just be that I'll hear a fragment of language and it will kind of stick with me and then escalate and snowball and somehow turn into a story. Other plays, I'll sort of have an idea that I'll be curious to see if I can pull it off. I do feel like every play starts with a kind of a challenge, a sort of sense of like, there's something about this which is not doable. So can it be done? Or, or maybe not doable for me. And this play also, I guess, started off with a small challenge to myself, which I'm realizing I feel like I can't disclose. But I think the inspiration for this play was really the very first draft of it was written during a silent playwriting retreat, which was being held at the Green Gulch Zen Center, sort of under the aegis of Eric N., who's this master playwright and master teacher who does these silent retreats where you sort of begin plays hanging out with other playwrights in total silence for about a week. So I was just surrounded by this gorgeous chunk of Northern California, which is where I grew up originally, in Berkeley. And I think kind of just thinking about that part of this earth. I live in, New York now very happily, but that's a gorgeous section of the earth. That's a complicated place with a complicated history of complicated people trying in a complicated way to sort of change how they think about life, change how we think about life. And I think I was a little ruminating on all of that. And that just kind of became... Oh, I can't hear you.
Now we're back. See,
Okay.
We're living in the world of Wi-Fi. And the little bit I know about the show and reading the description and the press release for the show, taking place in Northern California, that makes sense to me now because that's where you were when you got the idea to write it. How long have you worked on this? How many years has this been in the incubator?
I think that that initial draft was in the summer of 22, and then not steadily every day, but coming back to it, rethinking it, moving forward with it in different ways, had a couple of different workshops. So yeah, I guess 3 years since it was a little pup of a play. And
what I love about what it says about this show is it says it's tender and funny, but probing. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that are on the list: death, a pageant, a rescue, a resurrection, pigs. And an act of saving grace. So you can't give us, you're not going to give us the whole story away, but how do you describe what it's about?
I guess it's about an intentional community in Northern California, so a group of people who have gathered together to try to make a new way of living and kind of wrestle with new ideologies, who lose a member of their commune, I guess, really you could call it, who dies unexpectedly. And their response to that is both highly emotional, highly satisfying in the moment, and then ultimately really problematic, which is to say that when their fellow communard dies, they decide that really they're his real family, they're his true, they're his people, and they decide to give him a very romantic Viking style send off. And then realize that what they've done is complicated. Legally, it's complicated in terms of his actual family or friends or anyone who might know him who might wonder exactly what happened with that. So that's sort of the start of it, the beginning, inciting incident. Oh, and I can't hear you again.
This is a continuous thing. That's why I tried to move for you. And what is going on here?
It might be my end. I'm sure it's crummy Wi-Fi on my end.
No, it's not.
It's you? You're the problem?
Hi. Yes, come on in, buddy. Okay. What about my class? Okay, come on in. How you doing, bud? Sorry, thank you.
I love the studio space you're in.
In real life, I teach English. I run an English department.
Oh, do you?
I do. And we study theater, and we study poetry, and we study new works, and we study art. And I hope that you know that how important it is what you do, and when people see art and writing. What I try to teach my students is that writing is an art form just as much as the actors on stage and singing. When did you discover that you loved the idea of the written word and you wanted to be a writer more than an actor, more than a director, that writing was what was important to you?
I mean, I think I always, when I talk about how I became a playwright, which wasn't the same thing as becoming a writer, because I always wrote, I always wrote like poetry or things. But I always felt kind of unsatisfied with what I was writing. I mean, that was pretty good for a kid or whatever. I got, I mean, I grew up in Berkeley in the 70s and 80s. So there was a lot of encouragement for being a creative kid. So I did a lot of writing, but I always felt I wasn't quite doing it right. And meanwhile, I was doing as much acting as I could. I really loved the theater so much. But the kind of plays I was doing were very old-fashioned, or else very weirdo experimental. Like I didn't sort of understand plays as a contemporary written form. And then weirdly, when I went to college, one of the seniors, and I was going to give it all up. I wasn't going to write poetry anymore because I thought, well, what does that do? And I wasn't going to do theater anymore because that was crazy, because no one can make a life out of that. That seemed nuts, or I knew I couldn't. And then when I was in college, one of the seniors had written a play for his thesis, and it would just kind of knocked my socks off. And it combined all of these elements I wasn't really aware of. Like, it was very influenced by Pinter and by Beckett and by the Greeks. And it was this lunatic mashup. And I was really enthralled by it, and I got cast in it. And then I sort of thought, oh, this is what theater can be. It can be a very written form, but it can also be this like crazy theatrical form. And that's when I started trying to write plays. And I think the parts of my brain that had been thinking about theater that whole time, and the parts of my brain that had been thinking about poetry, which is a very theatrical form, kind of fused, or had been fused the whole time. And so I don't think I would be a writer if I weren't a playwright. I feel like playwriting is my specific mental sweet spot.
I love that. We were talking about the Vineyard, everybody, and I want everyone to make sure you go to vineyardtheater.org, where you can get your tickets to see The Burning Cauldron of Fiery Fire, Pig and Fire and all. And you bring up Pinter, and when I was in acting school, we had a scene from a Pinter play, and it was very important. My teacher said to be word specific, that he's very
Mm-hmm.
detailed, and that the actions and the language is very important. When you write, is there a style? Do you give a lot of direction? Do you give a lot of details? Is it left to the director? We're going to talk about the director and you in a moment. How do you navigate the written word, and then you give this baby up to somebody else to get your vision on stage?
Right, right. Because when you're writing a play, you're really making a blueprint as much as you're making a literary. You're doing the two things at the same time. It's a literary form, and it needs to have that integrity. But it is also a blueprint of collaboration, and you have to leave space for that, or you're just crowding out, you know, all of the other genius, which is supposed to come in and make it the thing. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of write I don't indicate everything. I do leave space. If something's really important, I'm really specific about it, and I generally expect that to fly because and or you go into rehearsal and you with a lot of things in your mind about what has to happen with this play and how it has to be enacted. And I would say generally 9/10 of the time you're correct. And then the other 10th of the time you realize you need to rethink and other people bring other visions into the room and they're better than your vision. And you kind of need to go with that. I mean, that's the real pleasure of working with really good actors. Really good actors are, um, their honesty metric is high. And if there's a moment they're really puzzled by, you need to sit down and really think if you need to rework that according to them.
Well, I love that answer because as an actor, my acting teacher used to say, all the evidence and all of the clues are in the text. Break down that text, and the writer has given you all the material that you need to tell the story. And I know with someone like you and all the acclaim and the incredible work that you've done, that's the case with this as well. This show reunites you with the director that you had a little bit of success with in the past.
Mm.
One second, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. You give me 2 minutes. You got it. Thank you.
Steve and I have worked together a bunch of times over the years. We met in the Soho Rep Writer Director Lab when we were both just really starting out in New York. And he directed the play that I had written for that first lab. And I got invited in sort of the initial planning meetings for the Civilians, the investigative theater troupe, which he runs, and which I'm sort of an associated artist with. Did a couple of shows with the Civilians, and then we were sort of just been in each other's orbit for years and years. And yeah, I had this idea for a crazy play. He reached out to see if I had anything which would be right for the Civilians. They had just gotten a commissioning grant. So that was Mr. Burns, which I proposed, and we did a kind of workshop with a group of Civilians actors we loved, and yes, ended up being a play that we worked on together a number of times, and which has gone on to have its own weird life.
It sure did, including award nominations and more. So now you get to reconnect. So what's it like reconnecting with him? Why was he perfect for you to be back with him on this project? How do you two work in tandem together?
Well, this project, I mean, weirdly, he reached out during the pandemic because they had another commissioning grant and wondered if I had any thoughts. And I had been doing a lot of research for various reasons on intentional communities. And I had begun to think that would be a terrific topic for a civilian show. Looking at intentional communities of the past and also contemporary ones, and just like, what is this human impulse to come together in clumps and really try to make a better life, which is something that I'm both really attracted to and also kind of leery of, like it's that push-pull. So we started work on a trajectory to make a Civilians project about intentional communities, very early stages. But there was this idea that after we had done that, which I still think is a good idea, I still think we should do it, but that after we had done that, I would take that material and sort of ultimately make some kind of a play from it, which would be a different way of thinking about the whole thing. But the play just got birthed really prematurely. I think I was readier to do that than I thought I would be. And so we've been making this play instead over the last number of years. I still think this idea of a civilians investigative theater thing about intentional communities would be great.
So then that's just what you do next after this.
Yes. No, that's further down the line. But that was how we...
While you're in your rehearsals about to open in previews, can you tell us a little bit about the cast? What has it been like to be in the room and see this come to life?
Oh my God, it's such a fantastic cast. It's a really good cast. Should I name them or? Sorry, I can't hear you anymore.
I think we lost connection there for a minute as well.
Oh. Should I name the cast or?
No, I could tell you if you would like, unless you got it and you're ready.
No, I mean, I'm happy to name. I just didn't know with the question of the cast if I should
Sure,
name them
let's
or
hear them. They're incredible.
It's an amazing cast. It's Bruce McKenzie, Marion Rendon, Bobby Marino, Cricket Brown, Bartley Booz, Donetta Lavinia Grays, Jeff Beal. God, am I missing someone? There's so many of them and they're so good.
I think that you have Jeff, Bartley, Cricket, Donetta, Bruce, Bobby, Tom, and Marianne.
I left out Tom Pachinko. Tom,
whose
name I please do not include this part in the
No,
thing.
I will
Also,
take it.
I'm realizing I'm remembering I don't know how to say his last name precisely, which is crazy. Yes.
No, and Tom was in Stereophonic and is so good. And this incredible cast is incredible. Like, they are an incredible team of actors that are going to put this show back and forth and on and together. And you can get your tickets right now, everybody. You can all go to vineyardtheatre.org. Who do you hope sees the show? Who's the show kind of written for? Who do you think the audience is?
Oh, anyone with a pulse. No, I think the audience is maybe anyone who's sort of considered, is this the way we need to be leading our lives? I'm assuming that's most people, but perhaps not everyone. Are we doing it right? Is this the way we want to continue and carry on forward? What are the risks and what are the pleasures of rethinking how it is that we make our lives?
Anyone who's a conscious theater goer, who's a good artist, who is looking for an evening out, that is thinking about the future, I think this is the show for you. I'm just enthralled to know what the spoiler alert is. I can't wait to be in New York City and see it. I love the area that this theater is in. I love the fact that Anne has been so generous while we've been in the middle of my lunch break at a high school with interruptions and bad Wi-Fi, and she's been charming and lovely as can be. And she's very accomplished and professional. Would you like to come to Detroit where I teach and teach us how to write? Because we need you. We need help. We need Jesus. We need a pencil. We need help.
Are you in Detroit? Detroit is an exciting place to make art right now.
It is a very up and coming, exciting. I moved here last year. I got married. And my husband is from Detroit, and we could either pay New York rent or buy a gigantic house in Detroit. So I said,
amazing.
Let's buy a gigantic house in Detroit and be able to travel to New York to see great art. That's our plan.
I think that's the great plan. I think I think New York is so expensive, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's amazing art in New York, but I think it's really hard for people starting out to really properly. I have great faith in cities like Detroit, Kansas City, St. Louis, like all of the other big cities that have these burgeoning, really exciting, really electric art scenes. That's where I think the future of American theater is.
I do too.
It's exciting you're there.
Well, we're going to start a theater program in our high school, so watch out. We may have to do an Anne Washburn show one day.
I would love that.
Hold on to your hat, and we're coming for you. I want everyone to know the Burning Cauldron of Fiery Fire is playing October 23rd to November 30th. You can buy your tickets vineyardtheatre.org. There's certain nights that tickets are as low as $45. There's different talkback nights and different special shows that are throughout the entire time. So go to the website vineyardtheatre.org and get your tickets, because the shows there sell out, and this show is going to sell out as well. Thank you so much for spending time with us in my crazy chaos in my lunch break.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Pleasure.